So I think we had a good chat about communication. Now, the ARC triangle. Here it is. Well, first of all, the triangle is a certain symbol. You know, a figure that represents certain patterns and laws. And the letters A, R, and C represent the letters of the words affinity, reality, and communication. What does that mean? Let's take a look at them in order, and let's first consider affinity. The feeling of love or liking for something or someone. Affinity is a phenomena of space in that it expresses the willingness to occupy the same place as the thing which is loved or liked. The reverse of it would be antipathy, dislike, or rejection, which would be the unwillingness to occupy the same space. L. Ron Hubbard. So, the definition says willingness or unwillingness to occupy the same place or space, which means that affinity has to do with distance. The higher my affinity, the closer I want to be to that person. The lower the affinity level, the farther I want to be from that person. You probably also know some person that you'd gladly not see for 100 years, right? And the farther away he is from you, the better for you. And then there is the reverse. There are probably people that you'd probably want to be around as much as possible and as close as possible, right? And that very feeling that a person has about another person or an object, the fact that he wants to be near and wants to be closer to that person, then we could say that he has a really high level of affinity towards that person or object. And vice versa. You know, hate is also a level of affinity, but a very low one. It's like, I have no desire to be around someone or something. Can you imagine this situation? You have an elevator, a limited space, and let's say that a young woman walks into the elevator, and at the same time, a guy walks in whom she doesn't know, and he's drunk. So we get a situation where there's sort of an enforced affinity. The space is narrow, and what does the girl feel? What does she hope for? She's hoping the elevator is almost there and she can distance herself the sooner the better, right? And then we have the opposite. If people have a really high level of affinity for one another, and we have that same elevator, then they're going to use it quite differently, for quite a different purpose. Alright, that was affinity, and I hope that it's all clear. Now, let's take a look at what reality means. Reality. Reality could be defined as that which appears to be. Reality is fundamentally agreement. What we agree to be real is real. L. Ron Hubbard. In reality, the key thing is that which we have agreed to be real. Supposing you ask a person what sort of music he likes, and he tells you that it's the same type of music that you also like. Now you have a common reality, and you can have a talk on it for a pretty long time. Or here's another example. Two people are on a flight, and all of a sudden they discover that both of them have the program Admin Solutions of Management. Do you think this will make it possible for them to talk about something for the duration of the flight? About their common reality? Of course it will. Reality is a very important component of the ARC triangle, but the main and the top corner, and it's not for nothing that it's at the top, the peak of this triangle is labelled with the letter C, and it means communication. And you already know quite a lot about communication from the previous section. Now, let's consider and look at this triangle in action. Alright, look, let's say that a boy and a girl, or a guy and a young woman meet, and they get married. They're a young couple, a new family. The affinity is very high. Coffee in bed, exchange in abundance, you know, all that. Well, let's say that this young couple only has enough money for a single bed. Well, do you think this is a problem for them? It's not super comfortable, and they have to be close to each other. No. It's quite the reverse. It's not a problem at all. You know, a high level of affinity is sort of like a high level of tolerance. You know, patience, respect. So, there they are, sleeping together, and the girl wakes up at night because her young husband's snoring awakens her. She wakes up, her tolerance is way high, and she hears this snoring. She listens to it, and she says to him, "My dear beloved, your snoring is like music to my ears, and you have the scent of a real man." And she goes on sleeping. Years go by, they have a bit more money in the family, and now they have enough for 2 beds. For some curious reason, these beds are now at the opposite sides of the bedroom. And we have the same snoring, the same scent, but the reaction and the behavior changes. He is snoring, the wife wakes up, picks up a slipper, and hurling it at him says, "Shut up! You're keeping me awake. And go and shower, you stink!" What happened? The affinity level went down, right? Have you ever had a quarrel with someone? Probably, I'm sure you have. It's happened, and every one of us has probably experienced this. You know, any quarrel can be called an ARC break. That is, the communication went down or disappeared altogether, and we lost some reality, and our level of affinity dropped down to 0. You've probably seen this. People who've had a quarrel now think that they now have to play the silence game. They think, well, me, I am Superman, but she's really a complete idiot. I mean, totally. It's beneath my dignity to talk to her. And she thinks the same. What an idiot. An ass, really. I don't even know where such men come from. And they both go on walking around on stilts, not communicating. An ARC break. I mean, that's right. That's the most intelligent decision, not to communicate, right? The most, really. You remember? We talked about proper communication being the solvent of all the problems, don't you? So, when one of them originates some sort of a communication, and it's still, you know, not the most kind one, but still it's an origination of sorts, and they find some small reality and their level of affinity starts to rise. And finally, the dialogue or the argument leads to finding additional data, you know, various realities, and affinity rises up to the point where the wife says, "All right, you can come back from the kitchen into the bedroom now." You see? And the distance again contracts. Affinity went up. That's how the triangle works. You see, you can initiate the communication, and in the process you find more reality and your affinity goes up. Or, you can show the person your affinity, which then spurs you on to communicate with the person and finding a reality. What I want to say with this is that by increasing any of the sides of the triangle, you also increase both the other sides. That's interesting, isn't it? In such a way, the ARC triangle is a foundation for all of life, one could say. In essence, when people communicate with each other, the main thing they want is to be understood. Hence, understanding the foundation for anything. And the 3 components of the ARC triangle, affinity, reality, and communication, are the components of understanding. Well, I hope that's it as far as philosophy goes. Now, let's get down to business.